Daniel Mercer stared at the glowing screen in his apartment long after the message arrived. His heart pounded against his chest, as if it were trying to warn him of something his mind refused to accept. The text remained there, unchanged, impossible to explain. It had come from his own phone number. Not a similar number. Not an unknown contact. His exact number. The same number he had carried for years. The message contained only 6 words. Don't go to work tomorrow. Daniel checked the contact again. Then again. Then a third time. He even dialed his own number, listening as his phone rang in his hand. Nothing about it made sense. He considered showing someone, maybe his best friend, maybe a coworker. But how could he explain something that sounded ridiculous even inside his own head? After a few minutes, he convinced himself it was some strange technical error. Maybe a software glitch. Maybe a prank. Maybe a delayed message that somehow appeared incorrectly. Whatever the explanation was, it had to be ordinary. It had to be. Before we dive deeper into this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The following morning, Daniel woke up exhausted. He had barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined the message glowing in the darkness of his bedroom. Yet as the sun rose over the city, reason began replacing fear. The warning suddenly felt foolish. He had deadlines waiting for him at work. Meetings, reports, responsibilities, real life. He showered, got dressed, grabbed a coffee, and left his apartment. For a brief moment while standing on the sidewalk, he remembered the message and almost turned around. Almost. But then a taxi splashed water onto the curb, a delivery truck honked its horn, and the city pulled him back into its rhythm. Daniel laughed quietly at himself. He was a grown man. He wasn't about to reorganize his entire life because of a mysterious text message. The world didn't work that way. Traffic was unusually heavy that morning. Construction crews had blocked several major intersections, causing delays throughout downtown. Daniel watched the clock anxiously as cars crawled forward inch by inch. Normally, he arrived at the office by 8:25 a.m. On that morning, he was still 3 blocks away at 8:30 a.m. His frustration grew with every passing minute. His supervisor hated lateness. He imagined the lecture waiting for him upstairs. When the traffic finally cleared, Daniel hurried through the revolving doors of the Franklin Financial Tower and headed toward the elevator bank. He was still checking his watch when a deafening metallic explosion shook the lobby. The sound was so violent that people screamed instantly. The ground beneath his feet trembled. Glass shattered somewhere above. Daniel looked up and saw dust pouring from an elevator shaft. For a few seconds, nobody moved. The entire lobby seemed frozen in confusion. Then panic erupted. Security guards ran toward the elevators. Alarms began echoing through the building. Employees shouted questions nobody could answer. The investigation would later reveal a catastrophic mechanical failure. One of the elevators had malfunctioned during its morning ascent. Emergency braking systems failed. Safety mechanisms that should have prevented disaster never activated. 3 people inside lost their lives instantly. Several others suffered severe injuries. News helicopters filled the skies above downtown before noon. Reporters crowded the sidewalks. Families arrived seeking information. The city spent days discussing the tragedy. Daniel spent those same days struggling to accept a different reality. The elevator that crashed was the exact elevator he used every morning. Security footage showed it leaving the lobby precisely 4 minutes before Daniel entered the building. For minutes. That was the difference between life and death. For minutes created entirely by traffic delays he had cursed moments earlier. For minutes after ignoring a warning, he could not explain. For the rest of the day, Daniel felt disconnected from everything around him. Coworkers gathered in conference rooms, sharing theories and condolences. Some cried openly. Others stared silently through office windows. Daniel barely spoke. Every conversation sounded distant, as if it were happening underwater. He kept replaying the events inside his head. The message, the warning, the delay, the accident. Each piece connected too perfectly to dismiss. Logic demanded coincidence. Yet coincidence felt increasingly impossible. By the time evening arrived, Daniel was desperate for an explanation. Back in his apartment, he examined his phone again. He searched call records, message histories, carrier information, anything that might explain what had happened. Hours passed without answers. Eventually, he sat alone in darkness, staring at the screen. Shortly after midnight, the familiar notification sound shattered the silence. Daniel froze. His pulse accelerated immediately. Slowly, he reached for the phone. Another text message had arrived. The sender was the same. His own number. For several seconds, he couldn't bring himself to open it. The memory. Episode 2 drops next Sunday. Subscribe so you don't miss it.